This is their viewpoint about what's happening in Hong Kong.
The protests in Hong Kong have been going on for over 2 months amid increasing violence. How did we get here? What triggered them? And why are they turning chaotic? It all started with the murder of Poon Hiu Wing, a pregnant Hong Kong woman who was ruthlessly strangled by her boyfriend Chen Tong-kai in Taiwan last year. The suspect fled back to Hong Kong after the murder. Chen was sentenced to jail for 29 months after being charged with money laundering. His killing went unpunished because Hong Kong and the island have no extradition agreement. The case showed that Hong Kong had a legal loophole that needed to be fixed. The Hong Kong SAR government submitted a Fugitive Offenders and Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters Legislation Amendment Bill 2019 to the Legislative Council for approval in April this year. The bill aimed to establish a mechanism for transfers of fugitives for the Chinese mainland, Macau and Taiwan, which are not covered in Hong Kong's existing laws. The proposed amendment was designed to be only applicable to 37 categories of extraditable crimes, including murder, kidnapping, and rape. It was a common revision of existing laws, so why was then Hong Kong plagued by, sometimes violent, protests? On June 19, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said that some Western forces are using this issue. What are those Western forces, and who wants to stop these amendments? Hong Kong is home to thousands of intelligence officers, earning the nickname the Asian Division of CIA. Agents from the UK and the US operate in Hong Kong without a single worry because the Chinese mainland has no jurisdiction over the city in accordance with the one country, two systems. The Chinese mainland is not able to bring these agents to justice if they commit offenses as long as they are in Hong Kong, even though it's part of China. If the law changed, Hong Kong would no longer be a haven for criminals. You might say this is pure speculation, but let's take a look at this NGO, National Endowment for Democracy. The NED is a self-proclaimed organization for supporting freedom around the world, but the truth couldn't be further from that. In fact, it's a second CIA, according to one of its founders, Alan Weinstein. A lot of what we do today was done covertly 25 years ago by the CIA. The biggest difference is that when such activities are done overtly, the flap potential is close to zero. But what's the connection between the NED and Hong Kong protests? On May 14th, Hong Kong opposition figure Martin Lee had a meeting with NED representatives Lee Cheuk-yen, Mak Ying-ting, and Nathan Law in Hong Kong. 2 days later, Lee met U.S. Secretary of State Michael Pompeo in Washington, who expressed his concern about the Hong Kong government's proposed fugitive bill. The fugitive bill caused concern among some Hong Kong residents. Despite authorities' assurances, they still worried that Hong Kong is losing its autonomy to Beijing. Opposition factions took advantage of this worry to instigate instability. On June 12th, a demonstration against the fugitive bill took place near the Legislative Council building in Hong Kong. There was a fierce clash between protesters and police. On July 7th, Hong Kong SAR Chief Executive Carrie Lam said the work on the bill was a total failure.
The bill is dead.
But protests didn't stop, getting more violent instead. On August 6th, 2 separate meetings took place between a U.S. political counselor and separatist leaders, according to Hong Kong's Wen Wei Po newspaper. Julie Ide, who works at the U.S. Consulate General in Hong Kong, was caught on camera meeting with opposition figures Martin Lee and Anson Chan. Later that day, Ide also met Joshua Wong, one of the leaders of the Occupy Central movement in 2014. But long before those reports, growing evidence pointed at the US as the hand-sowing discord in Hong Kong after US politicians met with Lee and other Hong Kong opposition leaders, including Jimmy Lai. Lai, the founder of Apple Daily, was also spotted on August 3rd meeting with a foreign man in a restaurant, saying, "Welcome to Hong Kong and well done with the situation." That man in the photo is Mark Simon, the right hand of Jimmy Lai, who has been called a man of mystery with ties to CIA. Even though he denies those accusations, a report by the South China Morning Post said Simon's father worked with the CIA for 35 years, and that Simon himself interned with the US intelligence. While the agenda of the meetings might not have been publicized, the 2014 Occupy Central movement could provide insight into understanding what's happening in Hong Kong now. Before the Occupy Central movement, Martin Lee, Anson Chan and Jimmy Lai went to Washington to meet with the NED and US politicians and plan their so-called independence movement. The NED denied meeting with Martin Lee, but Michael Pillsbury, a former advisor to the US Department of Defense, said on Fox News that the NED was pretty much involved.
We also have funded millions of dollars of programs through the National Endowment for Democracy. So in that sense, the Chinese accusation is not totally false.
So how exactly is NED involved? In 2003, the NED led a massive march in Hong Kong. That's according to the organization, believe it or not. In a newsletter, the organization listed its work in Hong Kong as part of protests cited under the subheadline, Examples of Past and Present Programs. According to the NED official website, the organization started donating money to Hong Kong since 1995. Three main groups in Hong Kong have received money from the NED. They are the American Center for International Labor Solidarity, the Hong Kong Human Rights Monitor, and the National Democratic Institute for International Affairs. A paper of congressional hearings on the oversight of the NED held in 1986 shows that the NED was established to distribute US government funds. It claims that the NED doesn't meddle in the internal politics of other countries but instead assists democratic people abroad. The NED's investments in Hong Kong reached a new high in 2014. According to Oriental Daily, opposition figure Lee Cheung-yan, as an agent of Jimmy Lai, asked the NDI for 1.3 million Hong Kong dollars to promote the Occupy Central movement. And Lai has given 9 opposition groups and 14 separatists over 40 million Hong Kong dollars in the past 3 years. Before setting its sights on China, the NED destroyed the stability of other countries. Stephen Kinzer, a senior fellow in international and public affairs at Brown University, wrote in the Boston Globe that the NED has sought to influence elections in many countries, including Mongolia. It also has built anti-Russia movements in nearby countries. He noted that the group should more properly be called the National Endowment for Attacking Democracy. So, do you still think that the protests in Hong Kong are pro-democracy?